Hey guys, it's KEnODvT here, and I am going to be shoutcasting a 3v3 between Saint, Mork, and Tarask. Now this is Garret, Kyle, and Mork, and that is how I refer to them as such. Now, I know Ragoska has already shoutcasted this game, but I decided to as well, and for one of the reasons is I do play 3v3s on a regular basis with Talene and KEnODvT, my brother. So we have a fairly firm strategy, and it basically revolves around you have one person who just econs all to hell. So on this map, someone takes both these rocks, someone takes both these expansions. We have a person who harasses early on, so a 6-pool or a cheese or cannoning or something, and then we have a person in the middle who kind of does the equivalent of like 2 racks factory and some tanks, so just marines, marauders, tanks. So you get enough of a defensive force so that you can hold stuff. So I was going to apply that kind of perspective to this video, and I have listened to the show already, so I'm pretty sure that they do a similar-ish thing, and I'll be interested to see how well coordinated they are, because as with Garret and Kyle's twos, they are very coordinated. They are amazingly more coordinated than me and Talene, and that's something that we've taken to heart in our new strategy, which I think is working a lot better. Now, their opponents, Punk, Optufron, and Skaholder, are Terran, Zerg, and Protoss, as are both sides. So this is going to make things slightly interesting in that you will have all the different units at your disposal. Now, my 3v3s, we have 2 Protoss and 1 random, me being the random, them being the Protoss. So that does limit our unit choices somewhat, especially if I get Protoss. But this combo is, in my opinion, the best, because you can pull from every single counter in the game. Now, this does mean that people have to be a little fluid to pull from every single counter in the game, but otherwise, it's alright. I mean, you just need to work on, say, being more reactionary and swapping to immortals or whatever. And some races have soft counters to things, and some races have hard counters. Like a Marauder, in my opinion, is a hard counter to a Roach, as is a Immortal. Did I say Immortal or Marauder? I think I said Immortal. I mean, well, they're both hard counters to Roaches, while as the counter to Roaches from Zerg is a bit more soft. So if they were seeing mass Roach, then it would, in my opinion, be Garret and Kyle's job to counter that. And you need to apply things like this to team strategy, and this is one of the reasons why 3v3s are just so good. Now, we do see Mork doing quite a bit of cheese, just trying to deal as much damage as possible by pulling 6 lings and the entire mineral line. He does have 1 worker left behind. No, he doesn't. Okay, he's going to be in trouble. So I'll be interested to see how much damage this does actually get to do. So he's presumably told them about it. From what they said on the show, they didn't get all that much warning, but who knows. So, no, that was close. If he had not been able to get that supply depot down, that would have been it. However, over here we do see no wall and a Protoss with a Zealot coming out in like a second. So this is going to deal quite a large amount of damage to the Protoss. Marines are over here, but they're going to take a while, and a Zergling pair spawning. So this is going to be interesting for Mork to deal with, and I'll be interested to see which opponent he pressures. While this is happening, Garret is getting a... Sorry, Kyle is getting a... No, wait. Yeah, Kyle is getting a Gateway and Cyber, and Garret is getting 2 racks. So we do see that Mork's push isn't as effective as he would have possibly liked, but it did deal enough damage to be annoying. So we'll just have to see how he recovers from that, and I suggest it's going to be with a little team assistance. But we'll see what happens. So neither players have been knocking down the rocks yet. Now, generally in my 3v3s, the first thing an army does is knock down these rocks for the econ player to take, because econ player needs to be econ, and at the moment the econ player is me or Talene, and Talene is just like, I'm going to mass cannon everywhere with 4 expos, and I'm not going to mine gas to the 12th minute, which to be honest is kind of where I got my 1v1 strategy from, and it works. He just lays like 12 cannons per expansion, he cannons the opponents, he cannons every single expo, he's kind of evil. So it's a bit hard to keep track of the production tab with this many people, but I'm going to try. Nobody's going for an expansion yet, although the other team has shown intent to take the expansion. One of the things I'm interested in is that they haven't decided to push, and this would actually make me doubt whether they're Skyping together or a pug team. I would suggest they are a pug team because they haven't got that slight coordination of, oh right, let's attack now, because one of the players just basically got knocked out, which, as we can see by Mork's 2 impressive drones, he has been. So without assistance, he's basically out of the game. We do now see that they are wanting to expand as well, so both teams are taking expos at about the same time. It's an interesting map for your 3rd expo. The golds are also interesting in my opinion because they don't have gas. I don't like this. Gas is way more important than minerals, so just remove gas and put 1 more mineral node? No, that's stupid. In fact, I'd say more than stupid, that's retarded. Now, we do see Mork is on an impressive 4 drones, going into 5. Tarask is fast tracking to Mass Void, I think. Kyle just hammering away at these rocks. One thing to note is that if a Zerg takes this expansion, the other player better take it quick, because otherwise they won't be able to. I had this happen in one of my 3s a while back when I was playing Zerg, and as a result I had to take both expos, and it was not the best thing. We do see a counter attack happening from the Orange Zerg. Orange Zerg has taken this base, and I will be interested to know if they will take this base as well in response. However, on this side, it's a nice wall, so they're going to have trouble there. However, Saint's base... No, I think Saint's base is going to be fine. Mork does appear to have control, and is going to be using that. A bit of conflicting control may be happening, but I think it works out alright. Not many workers were lost in the creating of this video. We do see Mork is on an impressive 7 drones. Now, personally, when I feel that you have an economic setback, your first priority is to mass expand out of it. So, if I get a point where I'm like this with Mork, I just boom, 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 2 bases, 3 bases, 4 bases, boom, to try and catch up and overtake my opponents. Now, Saint is running a little high on minerals, but nothing particularly too shabby. Tarask is having a similar problem, but we aren't pros. None of them are pros. If we thought they were pros, I mean, they're very good, and as a team they work well together, but they're not pro enough to have like 100 gas, 100 minerals the entire game. Mork apparently is, but if we can look at his income, we can see that ooh, diddly frickin' squat. So it's interesting. Saint is taking the expansion, and it appears that Kyle wants the other one. I think we do see them massing for a push soon. It's going to be an interesting push. We got tanks, marines, which is pretty much what Garret has. We have stalkers. I don't know. It's kind of all over the place, but it's got like 3 zealots, 2. It's all over the place, and it's not actually a army you can sustain, because you can't actually get that amount of gas off 2 bases. You cannot constantly produce that amount of that kind of mix of sentry, stalkers, immortals. You can do immortals, a few stalkers and zealots, but otherwise it gets a bit difficult. And from Tarask, we see Void Rays in 2 carriers, so it's an interesting army mix. Now, these marines will be able to deal with the carriers quite effectively, but otherwise everything's going to be pretty useless. I mean, there's a few stalkers here and there, but the only thing en masse is marines. Neither team deciding to take another expo. Purple for Protoss is still... Purple for the other team is still on another expo. We do see Tarask scouting expos, or just grabbing towers. Very, very important in my opinion. Not much of an army for each team. I mean, they're getting little bits of army, but I'd be interested to see army size. Ah, gods, which one is it? Army. So army size, we are looking at relatively the same. I mean, if we look at both Terrans, they're about the same. And food-wise, there isn't much variation except for Mork. Mork, it was a little reckless to do that push. I mean, I know it could have won the game, and sometimes those kind of pushes do, but anyway, live and let live. I'm pretty sure he'll recover economically pretty quickly. He should be, yep, he's getting a queen, so I think he's alright. I don't know how I like these tank placements. I mean, I prefer like 2 here, 2 here, 2 here. I mean, you really need to spread out tanks for the optimum iponage kind of thing. The good guys, the Starcraft guys, will have total view of this army right now and is going to know what's happening. So this is going to be interesting. I do really like this this siege tank placement. That is kind of just awesome. You can hold a choke with that. Or a siege tank placement here, you have to like be in this radius to be hit. I mean, I know it's really cool because you know, like high ground and shit, but it's not the best placement. Like a couple of siege tanks up here, you can't push through this area without scanning up here and killing shit. And a couple of siege tanks up here with a wall and army, you just can't do anything here. We do see a mothership coming out from Tarask from his main expansion. Yep, there it is. Mork is heading back into normal unit composition, I would suggest. He has got a Baneling nest up, and we do see quite a large army coming from the opponents. So this is going to make their life difficult, to say the least. I mean, we have 2 tanks, 3 tanks for the good guys, and a fair amount more. We do also see purple going for a second expo, so that will put them 1 expo up. This air army is interesting. Does it have any upgrades? No. Do either armies have any significant upgrades, which is going to change the fight? I do not. Oh wait, no, we do see 1-1 on Protoss and 0-1 on the Zerg. This is going to complicate matters slightly for the good guys, Garret, Kyle and Mork, given that they have a bigger army and more upgrades. So unless you can leverage a lot out of your siege tanks, it's going to be hard. Now this wall is going to be quite difficult to break, and ooh, a mothership. A mothership could make this quite interesting. Now, the Archon Toilet has been nerfed, so they can't pull something like that, but carriers under a mothership is just evil regardless. And yeah, there's some Hydras, but there's really not that much, and wow, that's a lot of Marines. It's not going to be easy for them to take out this army, this mothership. I mean, you can pull it back to the point where it's almost impossible to take out from that position. It's very important to always keep units under your mothership. We do see that the interceptors get picked off, but to be honest, that's not that bad. Interceptors die. Deal with it. We do see... where were that... okay, good. Bad tanks are firing. Not the best idea. I'm going to be interested to see how they can pull this off. It's going to be quite difficult. Mork is probably going to send some Banelings. But I'll be interested to see what happens. Obviously the game does not end here, and I'm pretty sure they said they won it. I can't exactly remember. Oh, Invisible Marines. Ouch. That's not cool. Invisible Marines, however, this mothership is dying reasonably quickly, and unless it moves, I don't think it'll survive. And a little late on the move there, but I still think it's done its job and stopped this army from doing enough. We do see Mork is back in the army producing with this many Banelings. This many Banelings versus this is evil. If he catches those siege tanks while on siege, they're dead. They're doomed. He will rape base, as it were. We do see a hold position zealot in placing there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anyway, We do see some interceptors coming out. Gonna see how much damage they can deal. They are being annoying. The opponent hasn't quite figured out that you need to shift click on stuff. We do see banelings coming in. Are they gonna get there? Are they gonna get there? It does appear so. Ooh, reasonably large damage from these banelings. Not particularly good. However, these siege tanks are going to make their life reasonably difficult, and purple is starting to saturate this base. Now, personally, in a scenario like this, what you want to do is take everything. You want to be like, I'm going to take this expansion, this expansion, this expansion. I'm going to take the map. Now, a team basis would make that so much easier. Like, if every single person takes another expansion, you could secure this whole half of the map. But then again, each their own. That's what I prefer to do in a lockdown situation, rather than try and win. I've never really seen Vikings at that angle. Little odd, gonna admit. So, again, they're in a typical lockdown situation, in my opinion. Mork is finally able to do something, and seems to be just popping banelings, which, to be honest, is not a bad thing. If these banelings are actually successful, then they're going to deal a lot of damage. Now, one of the big problems is they're going to be mining out soon. They're going to be mining out in a couple of minutes, which is going to be complicated. Now, I would have preferred that Saint put down another barracks or two, because he is hitting the 2,500 mineral mark, and Kyle is working on a little high gas, but it's more of a pug game and less of a competitive game, so it doesn't matter. But 2.5, wow, how do they get spent? I guess like that. 2,500 minerals is verging on slightly too high, but he's now pulled it down to 1.5, so that's not quite as bad. Now, I think they're just sitting out here massing up. They haven't taken any further expos, which I'll admit does kind of bug me. Oh my god, 2 motherships in one game? I don't think I've ever actually seen that. They take like 3 minutes to produce. That's a lot in Starcraft time. Now, we do see a mothership just coming in, level 1 weapons. Now, they had an opportunity to do this. I wish they had. Put like 50 SCVs below that mothership. Instant rape. I really want to try it at some point, but I never got around to it, so I want to try it again at some point, and they had an opportunity to do it. I think they should do it. Mind you, in my opinion, I think 2 motherships should cloak each other, so they like cloak each other. It'd be so cool. Now we do see a lot of interceptors going out, and these are going to be able to do a fair amount of damage just with a simple attack move. And while he's losing quite high amounts, he's not actually losing any of his army, which is the important thing. And interceptors are 25 minerals each. And to be honest, they're cheap as piss. So I don't really feel too bad about a wasting of interceptors, although you're getting to the point where the interceptors aren't dealing enough damage. I do like this tank placement from Garret. It's going to allow them to hold this almost indefinitely against any kind of advancing army with baneling support. And there's a lot of banelings. He hasn't got burrow yet, which disappoints me a little, because burrowed banelings are kind of for the win. Ooh, ouch. That's... You see these hydras? They die. You see these marines? They die. After that, these carriers rape. So, we finally see a player get a 3rd expansion. I really would have preferred this to be earlier. I mean, if they'd taken half the map by now, they would just be able to steamroll their opponents. We do see a couple more tanks being used by Garret, just advancing forward. He does still have this tank in here, which moving might be a good idea. I mean, it would help with defense. It's not particularly important. I'm not exactly sure why this tank is just sitting there. They have been able to take out quite a large amount of the defensive advantage with carriers and good micro, and I do applaud Tarask for that, or Kyle. He's doing a very, very good job of keeping their opponents at bay. They're being kept very, very busy by one person, allowing the other 2 people to micro and macro pretty much perfectly. So he's keeping 3 players busy with 6 carriers. Now that is something that I would deem very, very important, because for the price of 1 player, you're keeping a lot of players free. Now, not exactly sure what those tanks shot at. I think we'll be seeing a counter push by them very quickly, and I think it's going to do nothing. I mean, this tank placement is just perfect, and these banelings coming in is just going to tear them to bits. I mean, watch this. Nope, they're not doing it. I do apologize for the frame rate. My computer is not that great, and in particular, my computer is not that great during summer in Australia. It does have some overheating issues, although, as I've said before, you're viewing 10 FPS at 25 frames a second because that's what it records at, so you guys don't tend to notice as much as me. And also the sound isn't at 6 FPS, which is nice, because if it was, it would be a little bad, or the equivalent of what a sound FPS is. Now, we do see mass Vikings from his opponent. This is going to get a bit rough. Mork is still on one base, and we do finally see Protoss going for a third, Zerg going for a third. Terran hasn't gone for a third yet. He can afford to, but I mean, going for a third is always a bit hard in this kind of situation, but I think the offenders should be doing it, and the defenders should definitely be doing it. I mean, they're reaching pretty high population counts without very high worker counts, so I guess that allows for a bigger army in the long run. We do finally see that they figured out they were holding the watchtowers. They haven't even done anything about Kyle's Zealot. This is not a good thing, people. At all costs, you need to hold towers. They give you so much site map control. It's just awesome. You need to hold them. They are just amazing. This one's not particularly important, but the other ones you really do. We do see a push coming out from the good guys, and I think they'll be able to pull it back. I mean, these Hydras and Marines, if taken out by the Banelings, are gonna start leaving these carriers to just rape. And I think if we see a Vortex here, we could start seeing our own version of a Archon toilet with Banelings, even though they're indestructible for a minute or two. Now we do see these Banelings coming in, and they are going to get... Oh, those Marines are dying. Those Marines are dead. Those Marines are history. They're going to move on to the Hydras, and moderate damage to the Hydras. Not amazing. However, Saints... Garret's Marines are just going to tear everything of this army to bits with support from carriers and a mothership. This is the push that wins the game. They have just... And no... Oh, that's not cool. Blinking into enemy fire, not really the smartest idea. Tarask hasn't even lost his mothership yet, which is actually rather impressive in my opinion. They do seem to be firing onto the carriers because they have detection, but still, I would prefer that they fire on the mothership first, because without detection you've got an invisible army, and that's what they appear to be doing now, but oh well. So they have successfully broken a almost perfect contain, I would say. The only thing they didn't do is expand across the map, which in my opinion is contain 101. You've got them contained, expand. I mean, they had less upgrades, a smaller army, and a severely crippled player, and they broke out. In my opinion, that is due to pure skill and bad play by them. They needed to expand, they needed to take the map, they needed to push an economic advantage. People need to start thinking more long term and less short term. Rather than thinking short term, oh I need more army, think long term, oh they're locked in, expand everywhere so that we can decimate them late game with a kick-ass economy. And yeah, it may sound like I'm channeling Day 9. He's freaking awesome. What's wrong with channeling Day 9? I've learned a lot from him, and as a player and commentator I've learned a lot from him, so I'm going to start using this knowledge that I've learnt, and I don't care if people don't like it. Sure, go watch Day 9 if you want to, he's way better than me, but I'm a different person. I bring some different stuff to the table, and for some people Day 9 is just a little too much like learning, me included. Now, I love the guy and he's awesome, but it's way too much like learning for my actual preference. We do see a fairly effective push going on into his main. Now, This addresses a problem which, in my opinion, the best counter to siege tanks and a bio is charge lots, because you shoot your own army, and Marines are way squishier than charge lots. So the charge lots charge in and get shot by the tanks and then get pwned. So they're just little counters. They don't seem logical, but they work. And Stalker backup just means you can clean face. Now this army is pretty much cleaning house, and this is pretty much the end of the game for the bad guys. I mean, they've broken out. They had a almost perfect contain, but in my opinion they didn't quite use it. Mork putting on a little bit of early pressure, which in my opinion was not particularly efficient or effective, but still did enough to get the job done. Now, we do see that they do have more bases than their opponent, but not by much. The income is not drastically different. Like, if it was going the way I would prefer it to go, every single person would have 4 bases, and they would be on 2 each. It didn't go that way, and I feel if it had, they would have won very, very quickly. So, just a little tip: if you have someone in contain, expand. Make sure you keep producing armies so that you can hold that contain with more units, but still make sure you contain the opponent. So, a couple of things to pick up. Towers. Always have a unit on them. These towers, here, and here, aren't as crucial. These two, amazingly crucial. You get to see if they take 2 bases in the middle, and this middle corridor, which is where all armies pass through on this map. You must always have these towers. They are crucial to you winning the game. And while they don't make a massive difference, they make enough. So, a couple of things to take away. When in doubt, expand. When in doubt and in a contain, expand. A crippled economy does not necessarily mean quit, as we can see by Mork, who's come back quite beautifully and is executing a 1-unit army very, very nicely, dealing massive damage to the opponent. I mean, look at all the green shit that's going down on my screen. It's making my computer trip out. Yeah, this is KEnODvT, and they're about to win the game. Look, we can see it's 40 seconds left. There's not much else I can say, really, other than good luck, have fun in future. I wish you luck, and I really look forward to getting more and more of these kinds of replays. If you have any kind of epic replays that you've sent me, admittedly, I am casting these games to pull from the Starcraft community, and this is a really bad analogy, but the first time I played with Garret was at FFA like 5 months ago, and he was online. We like invited him through into the game, and I was like, oh my god, I'm playing with a god. And that has lessened somewhat, but these guys are still role models for me. They're really good people. They do a really good podcast, and if you're one of my listeners who isn't from them, which, to be honest, is fairly unlikely, I would recommend you go check them out, because they do a really high quality show. They've got a pro Mork, or a pro perspective, and they've got 2 guys who just love doing podcasting, and they're really good at it. So go check out the Starcast podcast, www.starcast.com for everything, and then iTunes for the rest. Starcast. The forums are like 2,500 people, or 200 or something around that nature, which is just ridiculous amount of people, and they all play Starcraft. I mean, for C players like me and Americans, it's great because most of them are on America or C. Well, to be honest, most of them are on America, and I can access America from C. Anyway, this is KEnODvT signing off. Maybe you learned something. I did.